BMW Championship, and then they wrap it up at East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta for the Tour Championship. We start in Norton, Massachusetts at TPC Boston, and we'll begin with Matt Youmans' plays. Doesn't have any head-to-head matchups or top 10, top 20 type stuff up there just yet, but 5 outrights. Justin Thomas, one of his favorite players. He likes to bet Thomas week in and week out, and hey, you can't argue with that too much. 13-1. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Bryson DeChambeau and Justin Thomas, the last 2 winners here at TPC Boston when it was still the Dell Technologies Championship. And look, they're the co-favorites, and why wouldn't they be?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, DeChambeau, Rahm, McIlroy, Thomas, it's a coin flip, and they're all in that neighborhood of 13 or 14-1. Schauffele, there's those 2 favorite players right there, Justin Thomas and Xander Schauffele. Schauffele, a pretty good number there at 20. I was really hoping to get better than 20, but it dipped down quickly. He's already into the neighborhood of 17 or 18-1. Webb Simpson coming off another top 3 finish at the Wyndham. He's got him at 30-1. Jason Day, the Australian, coming off of a very good performance at the PGA Championship at 32-1. And then Tony Finau, another guy who comes off of a great performance at the PGA, Finau at 40-1.
And I believe with Webb, he does have Paul Tesori back on the bag. He was missing for about a week, dealing with some injuries. So that always makes Webb a better player to have Paul Tesori. He's very reliant, and why not? Because he's one of the best pro jocks out there. I'll transition to my plays really quickly if we want to do so, because Matt and I match up on 2 of these, and one of them being Jason Day. And I recall back PGA weekend, I had a fellow golf handicapper who's an excellent golf handicapper named Josh Perry, and we had a Twitter exchange. He's like, Jason Day is going to go off at like 25-1 and win, and that's when he's going to win, when we were getting him at 50 to 60-1. And I tweeted back at him, I go, Northern Trust, lock it up. And here I am betting him for the Northern Trust. He's seemingly fairly popular this week, but look, this is a guy that I believe led the field in strokes gained approach at the PGA, was second in greens in regulation. He's hitting the ball about as well as he has in years. It's just, can he get the putter going? The short game has always been the strength for Jason Day, especially around the green. He gets up and down and saves par a lot of times when most players are going to make bogeys. So Jason Day, I think he's back, and he's going to win one here soon. And I said the same thing about Finau, because I kind of joked as Jim Herman was winning the Wyndham. I go, must remember that Jim Herman has 3 PGA Tour wins next time I click submit on Finau, and kind of joking around, and Finau kind of bared the brunt of it, because we know the story. He's got 31 top 10s since 2016-17 and hasn't had a win since that Puerto Rico Open back in 2016, but look, he's right there. I mean, he was there at the PGA. He's going to break through at some point.
Let me jump in here real quick,
and
we match up on a few this week. I am on Jason Day and Tony Finau as well, and Rufus Peabody touched on this too. We've seen historically with this golf course, TPC Boston, that driving is not a stat that you need to pay attention to a whole lot. There's been shorter hitters here, there's been bombers here, but I think most of all, you don't need a lot of accuracy.
Tee to green, basically.
Yeah, you can bang the ball out there, and that's exactly what Jason Day and Tony Finau do.
Yeah, they do, and so I definitely like them. And then another one that I see we match up on is Adam Scott.
Yes, sir.
I just felt was kind of disrespected, and I think a lot of the reason why Adam Scott's 50-1 here and not probably in the 30 range where he should be is because he only has one event that he's played. He played the PGA Championship, played pretty solid, actually putted the ball really well.
Played really well.
Yeah.
And for 3 of the 4 days, he was absolutely a factor.
But one of the things that got me on Adam Scott this week was the fact, number one, he has won on this course before. He was actually his first PGA Tour win, I think, was right here at TPC Boston in the first Deutsche Bank Championship in 2003. But Scott, if you recall last December, he won the Australian PGA Championship after the President's Cup. And then he didn't play for about 2.5 months. And where did he return? He returned to a course where he's had success and was a previous winner, and that was Riviera for the Genesis Invitational. He went on and won that. So he's not necessarily off that long of a layoff, but I think the rust thing is overrated with Adam Scott. And I think
seems to be, right?
He is starting to play better, and I could see him going very well here. I don't think that it's going to bother him not having a ton of reps. So we did match on that, and then looking, I know you mentioned Johnny Rahm earlier, and there he is on the card at 14-1.
Yeah, and Rufus talked about this too, that he's been betting Rahm, week in and week out for a year, and I know he feels the same way about Rory McIlroy, and you and I talked about it. Rory, Rahm, Justin Thomas, Koepka, take your pick.
I almost bet Rory this week. He's a 2-time winner on this course, but I kind of figured, you know what? Maybe I just got to let him win. Maybe if he beats me at 14-1, he beats me. But I know that he is going to win at some point because he's Rory McIlroy. And I know you're a big fan. Rufus is a big fan. I'm a big fan of Rory. I always have liked him just on a personal level, let alone as a golfer. But he's going to win at some point. But he hasn't really fired. I think he's been all of the events that have happened this year, and he's even been very candid about it. He's like, this has really thrown me off.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to do. I'm not used to no spectators. And
I'm with you. I'm not going to jump in until I see something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I love watching the guy, and it's not like he's played poorly, but he hasn't really even been recording a lot of top 10 finishes. So I'll take one of those other favorites like Rahm or Thomas, which I've been on a couple of times this summer, and I'll go ahead and avoid Rory McIlroy for now. Tony Finau, he's had 3 out of his last 4 starts. He's finished top 10, and he comes off of a really good PGA championship. And I thought maybe this is his spot where he's going to get that second win. You talked about it. Hey, why not? Why not at the PGA championship? I don't think it's going to happen at a major, but it just might happen here. I have a good feeling about Finau this week, and I tell you, a guy that I love right now, who's the defending champion. It was at a different golf course. They played at Liberty National last year, but I think Patrick Reed, red hot right now. And I think this course, the way we're going to separate the men from the boys, I talked about I'm not putting a lot of emphasis as far as driving the ball, but I think it's going to be on approach and around the greens, and there's really no better short game on the planet than Patrick Reed.
Exactly, and I definitely took a hard look at him. He was one of the last guys I left off. Look, what you said about Finau is true. He was 4th here 2 years ago at TPC Boston. He was runner-up the week before when it was the Northern Trust at Ridgewood, which is a Gil Hanse renovation, much like TPC Boston. He was runner-up to Bryson DeChambeau. So, look, you haven't seen a lot of the adjustments. Finau is still mostly in these elite fields, kind of in that 40-1 range.
I thought that was a nice price.
Yeah,
I mean, what was he for the PGA? Wasn't he closer to 30 or something?
Yeah, he was around the same range, but you're not really seeing the adjustments on him, and I still think you're getting square prices for a guy that's getting up there in the top 10. And one of the things somebody asked me about if there's a bias in terms of the top 5s, top 10s, top 20s, and I think they really keep it true to form on that, because it would seem like maybe a couple books may shade it a little bit on Finau because it's like he doesn't win, but a top 10 he's money,
right?
But I think they by and large stay true to form. One thing I wanted to mention in terms of the short price guys we talked about with the Rory, DeChambeau, Thomas, John Rahm. I went with the 5th option there. He's kind of right in that range, and that was Dustin Johnson.
Yeah.
And I simply went with Dustin Johnson because he fits the course profile. A lot of this is the Gil Hanse angle. He won at Plainfield back in 2011. The putter was really, he played well enough, and I know you had him for the PGA. He played well enough to win.
Absolutely.
He just got beat.
Yeah,
it's not anything he did wrong.
Shot a 68 on Sunday. Yeah. That's not too shabby.
Yeah, 5th in the field strokes gained putting, and he's on the bent grass. It's not bent POA, but it's bent grass, and he's usually better on this, a little bit better than he is on Bermuda.
Right.
He's just got to improve on the tee to green game, and if he can do that, he's going to be absolutely right there. And I felt he was kind of the ignored guy if you want to take like the top 5 or 6 in the market this week.
Well, I felt similar at the PGA. Everybody's looking at Koepka, Mr. Major and all that stuff, and I felt nobody had a better record on the West Coast than DJ. He almost got there. My outright plays, I basically did the same thing as far as top 5, top 10, top 20 finishes. And let's take a look at some of your matchups, Wes. I saw you had a matchup there. I believe Abraham Answer over Sungjae Im, was it? And I looked at that one as well.
And I did use Abraham Answer on the outright at 60-1. A lot of people don't know who he is. He's the number 25 player in the world. So he is a really good player. He just hasn't had that breakthrough win here stateside. He's won internationally a couple times. He was second in this event last year. That was at Liberty National to Patrick Reed, the eventual winner. He's had 3 runner-ups in the last calendar year. He was the 54-hole leader, actually, here at TPC Boston 2 years ago, which DeChambeau eventually won before he answer slipped to 7th place. Really good all-around game. He's not right at the top when I submit those statistics every week. Approach, tee to green. He's not like right at the top, but he's right the level below. So you know he's just really solid. It's not like he excels at one thing. He's pretty good all around and everything. So Answer was a guy I used. Sungjae M, look, he played very well last week, but I wasn't sure if maybe that was just the product of an easier course or what that was. But
Answer did not play last week.
No,
right?
Sungjae did.
Right. And I think it's a good fate of Sungjae here because, again, the guy has played so many weeks in a row. And I think it showed, I can't remember if it was last week or I think it was at the PGA. I can't recall. But I was basically going against him for fatigue reasons. And here we are again. He's playing again.
And he doesn't take times off. Exactly. And then my last 60-1 shot, Matt Fitzpatrick, I was just buying on the drift here because he was like in the 40 range or the high 30s at the PGA after
he ticked people off.
Yeah, and because he followed because he gained 10 strokes putting in Memphis and then he regressed the next week. So now people have forgotten about him.
Now, not a bad play at all. He seems to show up and